I have Twitch on this computer.
Okay. Um, there we go. Okay. All right, we're live now. All right, so you said you were feeling down spiritually speaking. Um, is this
Yes.
is this what you've been feeling for the last couple of days or just today?
You said what?
You've been feeling like this for the last couple of days or just today?
Um, I'll say like since yesterday. 'Cause honestly, I just been feeling like I haven't like how everyone else in their faith, how much they basically love God, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, do I even do I even love God for real? Because then I just don't feel like a child of God at all. Because it's like I'm tired of
And I,
idolizing so many things,
and it's like,
and it's like
do you feel like you're comparing your faith with everybody else? So is that why you're sensing this thing?
I don't know. I just feel like I just feel fake. Like I don't feel like a real child of God.
What makes you like? What's like? I'm pretty sure there's like a couple things, but what's like the number one reason why you're in that position?
It's because I keep idolizing a relationship over God,
Like an intimate one?
like um uh like a relationship like with a male.
Oh, so intimate. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, is that something you've been like trying to like fix?
It's something that it's like with a male. I remember you saying before that I have to like deny like my flesh in a way because I guess because like with the person I like, I kind of don't deny my flesh like when it comes to them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I don't. It's like this has happened like the a few times already with past relationships, and like I'm tired of it. Like I really am tired of it. I said to myself, you know what, I'm just going to become a Paul.
Okay. I mean that has sort of happened. Particularly in the Bible, because like you mentioned, like Paul, right? Paul has this um, what's it called? He has like a firm understanding where what he's doing, what he's embarking, he didn't have like a change mindset. You know what I'm saying? Like hold on, I need to remember this quite fondly. But like the thing is, what Paul was trying to do is that he was trying to embark something that he can't really have a lot of distractions, even before meeting up Christ. So
Yeah,
with that being said, once he actually started following Christ, that never changed. So when he was doing that mindset, when he went to other places and preaching from place to place, essentially like kind of donning this like spiritual leader mindset where it's like, okay, it's me making sure I was spreading the word of God. He traveled to multiple places in comparison to the other apostles, and so um, he kind of like didn't. The only thing that changed about him, like initially, was like his uh, devout devotion towards Christ. So what he had like surrounding that was just instead of the object of him becoming I don't remember he was training to be a Pharisee or Sadducee. Um, he was essentially trying to like, okay, let me remove all these distractions, let me focus this because that's normally what they normally do. They just follow a rabbi, and then it's just they slowly become the person they're following up until whatever degree they achieve. Then they can settle whatever it is that they're trying to attain, whether it be something in the being a rabbi himself or having some kind of political power, because there's like a branch towards that where it separate the church and state. But regardless of that point, Paul had that mindset, and so like he didn't really made it as a need to have a companion, even though he had other disciples or other fellow believers that went to the faith with him in some areas. Like as you can read in the book of Acts, where he was in the Philippian jail in Acts chapter 10. He had like Silas and different other people he'll commute about. But when we're talking about intimate thing, um, I kind of can speak of experience on this because I was kind of like that. Like I had the mentality that if I were to have uh, a romantic partner, like a wife or not, it shouldn't like matter to me. Do you
Mm.
understand like the purpose behind that?
Um, Honestly, no. If you mind.
I mean, it's fine. Okay, so it's a difficult pill to swallow, just because like it's not something we would like to hear, especially when it comes to this topic. Because for me, uh, do you remember if I ever told you like why how I met my wife? Or
No,
no?
no.
Okay. So I was actually dating like well yeah, I was actually dating like one particular person. Try to reconnect with another person that I kind of like side struck, and then I'll at the same time I was talking to another person who I tried to rekindle our I guess relationship, because I did ask her out, she just said no, and then I was just like, all right, maybe something will change down the road. So there was like there was two things I was actively doing and one thing that was just like very inactive. Okay, and so uh, at one point I started not uh I was like removing certain people in my life, not willingly, more so like trying to realize like, okay, if I want to have this relationship with God, it should be a priority. So naturally, when I was trying to put God in His place, everything else just followed afterwards because I wasn't like struggling or fighting against it. So when I started putting God in His place, the first person I dropped was the one that I was very passive with. The thing that was like wasn't active, that I was trying to like I did talk with this one female. I felt like I was being removed from her because I think there was like not a coincidence that when I tried to link up with her, knowing my intentions at the time, God saw that as like, no, that's not happening. So he definitely used people in a specific scenario to get me out of me linking to this person, and we never reconnected ever. But I was trying to do so, which is pretty interesting. When it happened, like I had a realization. I'm like, is this God's doing? That's actually pretty insane. This can't be a coincidence. Then the second person was that was to be removed was essentially the one that I was actually dating. We went on like I would say like 3 or 4 dates, give or take, and I was kind of weaning off of that particular person because just due to the fact that um I see some differences between her and my faith that just can be like we can't reconcile this because I'm jeopardizing a lot. Even though I was very attracted to her. She's, we met like a little bit more than the other person because the other person was like fairly new, so there wasn't like a close enough bond. But in this person, I know her for at least like 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So, we met in person before. Then we started dating because she started working where I was staying at. And then we'll like go on a couple days. We'll meet up at usually in this spot. We'll hang out. We'll talk. But what kind of made me a little bit like reserved and um, kind of like stay away from her was the fact that like there was something she was doing that I've overcame, and I if I knew if I stick around, I'll end up like jeopardizing my faith if I continue to do so. One of the things was like abstaining from alcohol. Now, I did do a study that drinking alcohol is not a sin. At that time, I thought it was, um, but I just came to figure out, or I would say like recently, like drinking is not bad. It's just like if God doesn't want it for you, like specifically for you, He'll make that to be the case and known to you. And so I came to the understanding afterwards that drinking is not particularly a sin, but she would drink as well. And knowing the effects of alcohol, like you can be persuaded into like hanging out with other people that might or may not be like good influences you. And I think that sort of happened. I would say like a couple of months after I figured out, like after I became saved, and then when I went out with her friends, I was just like, okay, this is definitely something I don't want to get used to. Like every time we go out, we're always drinking, and like with friends, because with people and gatherings and alcohol, like you can try to tame it, but sometimes it gets out of hand. Because I've been in those scenarios where I had to like stop being friends with people because they don't know how to control themselves. Um, so that was that one thing. Like I see it like this person is a much more social drinker. I was. God removed that interest from me because I'll use alcohol to either like be in those settings, but not all the time. If it's like, okay, we're gonna go out, it was most likely like, okay, we're gonna go out, feel good, and maybe get drunk. But that need wasn't there anymore. It felt like very foreign when I became saved. And then eventually, um, what's it called? Um, yeah, she got hung over, and I was like, huh, that's strange because like she takes her faith seriously, and I take my faith seriously. But then she was jeopardizing one area, and she saw no wrong with it. And so we went to, I think this was our last date, and or maybe leading up to one of our last dates. And I remember, no, there was a couple more afterwards. It's been a while, so I'm so sorry on the details. But um, I remember I kind of confronted her about it. I was like, like we don't really worship the same God, because there's a lot of things you're doing, which I'm reading the Bible and comparing to like what you're doing, and I don't see it like it's aligning whatsoever. Uh, with the well, she only had one hungover, but I don't know how many times she either got drunk or hungover. She's a very social person. She's a very attractive person. So I was like, is this person like actually trustworthy to be around? Because like I know her to some extent, but I don't actually know her to be like confident and like trusting her and stuff like that. Then the other thing was she was a Roman Catholic. She's like praying to like saints and stuff like that. So it took a while. It took a couple of dates, and then I was like, okay, it always falls back for me making ultimatum. Like, am I going to jeopardize my faith and go with a person that may or may not make me jeopardize my faith, or I go with God? And so I made my choice. Um, Leading up to it, I did invite her in my apartment, and it felt like we were going to become more physical, to say the least. And I think at that point she took like the heavy interest in me, but I was very reserved. I was very reserved and aloof because I did feel connection at a physical extent, but not like an emotional. So even though that it didn't get past as it should, I was coming very close. And in that time, again, like I said earlier, I was talking to another person I was trying to rekindle and connect with. So
Yeah.
um, I was weaning off of my old lifestyle because my old lifestyle was just like me constantly um, dating multiple people, getting promiscuous, being very active in that regard.
Mm.
But even though there was like a threshing point, the other two people, I almost broke that line. Um, and then the third one was actually difficult to actually cut her off, just to the due to the fact um, like we had hours and hours in conversation. I probably know her around the same time like the other one. That just kind of like I think we would be better off staying as friends because if I were to like take this serious, I don't really see myself with like a Roman Catholic woman and me something else when there's so much stark differences that like we can't actually like do things together like worship together, read the Bible together. Uh, like our foundation is like one and the same rather than being polar opposites. And so this last person, even though there was a more of an emotional connection, I realized like I made it like an idol. So even though like the other two weren't necessarily like need, but I made a decision based on like okay, I understand that God made it to be known that it's not for my person, and it turns out this person that I'm more emotionally invested in is also part of that category and group. And so that was actually very difficult for me to let go because I'm not the one who's making the decision, God is. It's just a matter of like, am I going to go with it or am I going to keep fighting against it? And so that's what I did throughout the whole year, even though I was seeing the other two people, didn't cross that line. I was actually more invested in her. And I think I realized it after the whole thing went away. And then I met my wife to be like, okay, this is how I should uh, formulate my wife because I didn't find her. God did. And then slowly but surely, like I understood what was the whole point of that. And so um, it reached to a point where I was so obsessed with this girl that eventually um, we would talk like every single day for hours on end, and right before we go to sleep, even like still on call. And um, I noticed that when she didn't call, I'm sorry, when I called and she didn't pick up, um, she like ended it. Like she just rejected. Usually, like people who just couldn't pick up or just happen to miss a call, they just let it go until like you can't, see the ringing anymore. But this time it just hit me. I'm just like, okay, we're definitely not on the same page because even though we had like differences, they weren't major to be like, okay, we can't have a relationship. It was different. But I was willing to jeopardize certain aspects of my faith just to be with this lady in comparison to the other two. And so um, even though she was very different like me, she wasn't promiscuous to the same extent, and I don't think she is even still now. But I realized like okay, if with this person, we're gonna have like arguments because we had like one or two beforehand. Um, just because like our personalities kind of mashed at one point, and then the second thing is she was cussing a lot, and she wasn't like when I first knew her, she wasn't like this. So how she started was the person that like I was interested in and in my mind, but the person that she was up until that point was very different. She started acting like me, if anything, and I didn't like that. So it was like a very like self-reflective. So a long story short, because I know it's a long explanation, I started noticing that the people that I was interested in for the wrong reasons, I started giving up one by one slowly over time, even though I was involved with like three of them to a certain extent. Uh, I almost broke that threshold of like physical contact, and I decided not to go with it, even though I was very close. And then eventually, when it came to this person that I wanted to do all this stuff, God still said no. And I realized that because where God was, she was there currently. And so
Yeah.
I realized that God is my everything, but here are the things that are in the way that I'm considering everything. So I made that decision. I'm like, you know what, God? And I remember praying this in the middle of the gym that I was, private one that I was able to
Yeah.
use. And I said, I, whatever it is, whoever you decide it be, whether it is with the particular person or not, you make the call. You call the shots. It's not me. And so I felt like this huge
Yeah.
relief come through me. I blocked her just so I won't be like incentivized to message her. And after like I would say like a couple of weeks or a month,
Yeah.
that's when I met my wife for the first time. She came into this workplace and it felt natural. We started talking and leading because this happened late last 1 year.
Yeah.
The following couple of months we started dating, and then that's when I was like, I had a confirmation. I heard God. I'm like, this is her protector, and so I got very emotional. And then even though
Yeah.
we were speaking, I think this is like our third date. I was like, okay, it wasn't me who becomes yes, this is for sure what I needed to do and wanted to be. I didn't make that decision. God did. It was just a matter of like,
Yeah.
okay, God made it to be known. What you do afterwards, you respond to it. So, with that being said, I experienced something with Paul, not by detail, but I do see some similarities here
Yeah.
with God putting things in your life because He is seeing fit. And as
Mm.
Christians, we should really get used to the fact I'm like, okay, He is our Father. He knows best for us,
Yeah.
intention wise. And obviously, He is God, so He definitely does know infinitely more than us. So it's better
Yeah.
for Him
Mm.
for if you stay single, dating, or married, you know, if you're supposed to do this or the other, whatever it is, it's up to him to decide. Because sometimes it's easy for him to little stuff like,
Yeah.
oh,
Mm.
um, what about this, and that, and the other. But when it starts going up the chain to how serious they are, especially when it comes to your spouse, those are decisions that he's still making at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think
Mm.
the most common example, and I'll just finish with this because I'm curious what you have to say. Jacob was a prime example because after he receives the blessing in Genesis, I think it's like between the
Yeah.
chapters
Mm.
32, if I'm not mistaken, forward. Um, God sent him to this one place, and eventually he found his wife. Well, his wives technically, so Rachel and Leah. But because he
Yeah.
was always the one
Mm.
moving the things, in order for everything else to follow afterwards, Jacob was part of that process, and God was the one who's like, okay, you're going to this specific location, you're meeting your
Mm.
wife, even
Yeah.
though it's going to be difficult to actually meet the wife that you were looking for. I'm going to make it happen because I'm the one who's deciding where you go, who you marry with, how many children you have. It's all up to me, essentially.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it
Mm.
with that. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. It's like I'm more than willing to like give up like the crush. I'm more than willing to like if I have to, even though it's gonna take some time. The Lord has helped me
Yeah,
with
it's
a
like
bunch of things I had to do. Like
I'm more than willing.
so to like give up. It's like if I have to, then I have to. And and if it's not something he wants from me, then it's gonna be sad, obviously, but I'm gonna have to accept it. I just don't know. I'll just have to wait and focus on basically on him.
Yeah. Yeah, you're more than willing, but when it actually happens, like you said, um, that you're idolizing this relationship, have you actually made that decision, or you're still like holding on to it?
I don't know. It's not a relationship. It's like a crush.
Okay, but like, are you just interested in one particular person, and that's it?
Yeah, just one person.
Um, okay, yeah, I mean, it's still problematic, because like you've
Yeah,
been thinking about it, right?
yeah, like a relationship. Yeah.
How recent was this?
Oh gosh. We've known each other for some time, so it's like probably like the third month, I guess, because we've been friends since July, I believe.
I straight up don't know why my voice is not being picked up.
Probably like the third month, I guess, because we've been friends since July, I believe.
July of this year, last year, I'm sorry.
This year.
Let's
Probably like the
see.
third month, I guess, because we've been friends going to be going on July, on 5 months.
Oh,
Or
okay.
we're in the,
I don't know this person, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. I just want to see if
no, you know him. You know him.
okay. I don't need to know. I just want to know if like the context is super important. Well, again, this is probably like another thing to lean on to the next point. Because it might seem like a non-answer, but it is an answer. I just recently talked to a person, and I'm like, I see like they're kind of posting Christian stuff because usually it's very difficult to see if somebody is a Christian or not by their actions,
Yeah.
to say the least. So I was like, hey, is this like new? Because I was just genuinely curious. I didn't have like some kind of weird motive. And they're like, I realized that the way how they responded was aggressive. So instead of like matching their energy, I was like, oh, I was like baptized, yada yada, because she mentioned she was baptized. And so all of a sudden I see like the shift change. Um, but the conversation, which I remember specifically, was like she mentioned God's timing, and uh, well, it was His will. Because I said my regret was getting saved sooner. Like I really wish I was saved sooner, um, than what happened currently. And she said, oh, well, it's God's timing. And so even though that like I'm grateful to learn a lot of things in the faith, that response kind of like took me back a bit. Because even though like I'm very impractical, like I think things are more specialized. Like there's a specific answer with specific contents to respond to the specific questions, but sometimes practicality um, is key. It doesn't overcomplicate anything. And yeah, it was just God's timing because like even though I was saved at the age of I would say like right before I turned 26, God is like okay, finally He came to the conditions to finally know me because it's up to the Father to draw people near to Him. It was never about like us. It's always like God is like always moving, and every single person right now, even the ones that are unsaved, he's like readying them up for something. Whether they'll know Him at one point or be used in some type of way as an example, regardless of what it is, His will is for everybody to believe on the Son. Okay, so um, it's just a matter of timing. Like it's not the world doesn't revolve around me. If anything, the world and the universe revolves around God. So um, it was just basically His timing. Like I wish it was like when I was 14, I would have studied at a high school. Because how reserved I was, I would have like went to like a nice college and stuff like that. Idealistically, I would have like reached the point where I would have been on stage and talking to like thousands and stuff like that, and trying to help people with affirm their faith. But then it was like a humbling thing. I'm like, what? It's not about me or what I can do. It's like what has Christ has done for me. You know, uh, I'm just understanding that little by little, and so despite that, it didn't take that long for me to meet my wife. I think with the process of me letting these idols go, these like ideas that became strongholds really because they were just holding me back. I could do a lot of things, but I'm involving with myself with people because after that I started noticing that I'm like I'm trying to work with you while understanding my faith, and it seems like there is no like middle ground here. So the only thing I could do is just sever myself from you, and it became natural, well, supernatural to be honest, because I used to like do this like very sooner. Like I was a very apathetic person. Like if I see like there was like no valley, I have no problem leaving. But you know, after I found Christ, I find that this decision very difficult to do so. So, um, moderation is key. But nevertheless, thankfully, I had God, I had my own apartment. I was really like deep in the first year of my faith until like, I had like a small hiccup towards the eighth month. But nevertheless, I had God work through every single stage from me being single and celibate for a good year, finally meeting my wife, us dating, and even though we're working out the kinks right now, it was like, okay, he's basically on this path that I've set before him, and it's just naturally progressing as it goes. And whenever he stumbles across something, I'm there to help him out. So that's what it is. We're like on this journey, but he's the one is like, okay, at this time, at this month, like this is what you're going to experience, right? And whether you with him at the moment you're acknowledging and you go straight to him, or maybe there's something that happens and I'm like, okay, let me just like see answers alternative to what that is. Because for me, when it comes to studying, like it just comes naturally because I already asked God for wisdom like multiple times over, and so when it came to that point where like if I need anything to like learn, God is like, okay, like here you go, because I already made that decision and I'm not gonna stop him, right? So it just comes naturally. So like studying is not an issue, but then there's other areas where I still struggle with, and so that's where I need to be deep in prayer, uh, and obviously like allow him to do his job because the more I fight back, the more I delay, the more I'm just like I want it this way preferentially. Um, that's when like the struggle happens and the stumbling because like it can't progress. If there's like an issue from my end, it'll stop where it is and it won't get resolved until I'm ready to confront it. And of course, like I do it with God because Jesus is interceding for me on my behalf to the Father as he currently sits at the right throne. And so um, the process only gets easier. I was just like, okay, let me just stop fighting. Let me just stop fighting and having it my way. Because I did had it my way the first like what 25 years of my life, and it didn't pan out well. That's how I finally came uh, to answer. Because out of all the prayers, and I'll just finish on this note. I remember before I met Jesus, and I knew who he was. I literally begged God to say I need answers, and I haven't stopped receiving some. So there's obviously like a priority. Because one of those answers, I'm like, okay, you're gonna finally understand who God is and who I am and who's my son. So when it, so those answers, that obviously helped me a lot more than I can actually form a relationship. Because God wants you to enjoy this gift, but this thing that we're idolizing is definitely going up on the chain of priorities that may or may not take God's throne. So it's a very useful tool to remind yourself, okay, I gotta make sure God is sovereign where He is because He created everything. He's not part of the food chain where this takes precedent of that, this takes precedent of that. I have a family and a child, right? I have a wife, I have responsibilities, I have duties, but they never will take God's place. So with that mindset, it actually helps out that whatever it is that I'm idolizing, very quickly, reminding myself who God is and where He is, changes that problem. Do you see where I'm trying to get at with that?
Yeah, that I'm putting the person in God's place when I should be putting God in that place. And if I do, get in that state of mind again to go to God and put him back in his rightful place.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Because like again, this serves like a distraction. It doesn't seem that way, trust me. Right? It doesn't seem that way like it feels like you're getting distracted. But it is because as long as like you're validating yourself on this idea that you know um this seems very important to me, but that's the highlight key, right? The outsiders find this
Mm-hmm.
very abnormal and weird. Like, why are you always making God a priority? That's That's one of the aspects. There's a lot of things that pertain to God, but one of the aspects is that He is literally the creator of the universe. Sometimes we just say it in passing or just commentating, but we don't do that due diligence and reference. I'm like, God is the one who created you and me and everything else that we interact on a daily basis. How could I not? Not me make highlighting that importance and keeping him there, even though like I'll momentarily forget because I am an imperfect being, because of this flesh. I
Yeah.
have to constantly remind myself. But wait, hold on a minute. Why am I reminding something that I forgot? That means that something caused me to lose focus momentarily. What is that? A distraction. If you look up the definition of distraction, that's what it is. Question is, what is your distraction? Is it this a person that you're infatuated with that somehow you're feeling down that you don't have a relationship with that person, but don't remind yourself that you have a relationship with God. There's a lot of people, including myself, that if I knew who God was, I would have made that decision sooner, and I missed out 25 years of not knowing Him. So that's like a tool to be humbling, because what serves as also distraction. That's why I asked you a question earlier. Do you feel like you're comparing your relationship with God to everybody else? That's why you think you're a fake Christian, or is this a much more different problem where your focus is not where it should be? And I'm assuming that from this conversation is that, and there's some area when it, particularly this one, where it seems like you're focused too much on the absence of this relation of this particular person, rather than acknowledging and being grateful for the relationship you currently have with God. Does that make sense where I'm trying to get at?
A little bit. It, it's like, mm, no, you're right. You're right. I gotta be more grateful that I even have this relationship with God and that someone even told me about God.
Yeah, because like you're young, you're like I don't know how long you've known uh Christ about. I think you told me in passing, but you definitely have like way more um experience, with somebody that like, I try to learn about. Like I'm not reading the Bible because like, I have so much resources online, so tangibly like I used to read the Bible a lot. But even though I don't have a physical one, that doesn't take away of my physical studies, but I'm trying to get as much as information as possible. But again, recently I had to be like, okay, I don't want to make my intelligence and my understanding of God become an idol in itself. Because what's dangerous about idolatry is that's very subtle. It's super subtle, and
Mm,
sometimes you don't notice it until you acknowledge it. And this is my favorite phrase. The first step to fix a problem is to first acknowledge there is one. Because as long as you don't notice there's a problem, it will still continue being a problem. That's how that works. And so recently, I'm like, okay, I want to make sure if I am doing these things, I'm doing these lives, uh, evangelizing, defending the faith, doing apologetics, publishing like my book just as a free resource, whatever it is. I gotta make sure, okay, I gotta make sure I'm doing this, not because I'm trying to please God or please people, but I'm trying to do this because this is how much I love God and I want to help out people because I know people need that just as much as I did, especially my first year. But I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just going like, okay, God said to love people. This is one of those ways I can love people. But then there's other areas where I can't really jeopardize and being like, okay, as long as I do this, it compensates for that. And I keep catching myself. So I definitely do fall short in this category because even though like I'm kind of there's a lot of people right now that are getting under my skin uh, for unrelated reasons, God still commands me to love them. So um, it's a humbling thing, that's what it is. I'm like, okay, I am definitely placing my knowledge and understanding um, higher than what God calls me out to do. And he lists like a couple of stuff in the Bible, it ranges. It's very diverse. And so in order for me to
mhm.
be a good disciple, I had to actually like embody the love of Christ rather than just pretend it. So it's one of those things. It definitely comes into the deeper you understand how Jesus himself function, because you can't really find error or fault in what he says, does, or thinks. He does everything appropriately, and so when you understand how he responds, I'm like, okay, I obviously this is not natural to me. In order for me to put on Christ, I have to actually like do um, what he says, and when he speaks, I need to listen. And doing that, I need to read the Word, because the more I read his work, right, and what other people testify about him, I get to become more familiar in how he um, wants his followers to do so. Because if he's leading and he has like a bunch of followers behind him, you assume that his followers will act or think or say or speak like him. So um, it's much more intricate rather than something superficial. So hopefully that helps you like in that aspect where like, okay, this is what I'm doing, how I'm reacting, but what would Jesus do if this was him in this situation? And it actually like makes it very clear, because obviously you don't have to be God, but you have the Bible which helps you tackle that problem even though you're not God himself. Um, does that help you?
Yeah, I gotta put God back on his throne.
Yeah. And it's super easy for him not to be in that area, especially when it comes to like small things. Now you don't have to like obviously like nitpick every single thing, but as you go, you start realizing, hold on, what I didn't ask what God felt about it. Does God want me to be with this person, or am I putting my needs before His? Because
Yes.
as his bride, and we'll just finish on this point, because I think you understand the point. My wife always constantly be like, "What do you need?" So I understand that even though she has her flaws, she is doing her duty as her wife to I would say a great extent. Because she's tending to my needs, she's not tending to her needs first. So as she tends to my needs, I tend to her needs. So we're constantly serving each other rather than ourselves. And so, um, in order for you to prepare to have this relationship, which I'm pretty sure he wants that for you, question is when is up to him. But if you want to be in a relationship with this person, you got to make sure, okay, am I taking care of other people's needs? And if so, that means I will take care of my husband's need when God decides it's time.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. It's because I need to basically put God in the middle and then just let everything go, like everything flow out. Because I remember seeing something about that. Like, you gotta put God in the center,
Yeah.
and everything else will just come.
Yeah, in the same notes that I sent you, when you're done reading the stuff we talked about the last week or last Sunday, read the study about the rock and living waters, because the rock is supposed to represent Christ, and he's what stands as a foundation. Like whatever comes at us, like it becomes unmoved, unshaken. So that's the idea that you're coming off. So a rock portrays that, it's firm, it's boulder, it's not going to move. And this same rock appears in the Old Testament, where it followed Israel, which is pretty strange because rocks don't move, but it's still being tied back as the specific rock is our God. It's Christ. You find that in 1 Corinthians 10 4. And then when Moses struck the rock, um, uh, water flowed from it. And Jesus also like himself as the living waters in John 4. So it seems like he is portraying himself in two different ways, but it's referring to the same person. That God is our rock and he's also the living waters. That if we place our foundation in Christ rather than some institution, some empty religion, or whatever foundation that's not centered around Christ, it'll stand
Yeah.
firm. And once you understand and have those basics like really seeped in, that whenever something comes at you, you're able to like, okay, this is what the Bible says about this. then naturally, which is what the waters is supposed to portray, it will naturally flow out. That it doesn't seem like it's a struggle anymore. Like I have the tool. It's just like, am I willing to recognize that it exists in the first place? It's in my possession, and then finally, am I going to respond correctly to whatever problem I'm currently like facing with right now?
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's just like I don't know why, but this came to my head.
Hmm.
So God or Jesus is like the rock that Moses struck and water came out of it.
Yeah, that's a there's many instances where that rock is mentioned. That one specifically is supposed to represent the crucifixion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm, okay. Yeah, I need to focus on God.
Yeah. Actually, you read that study, the rock and the waters, and then if you reread the whole book of Deuteronomy, you can actually like see people's dependency on God, and the reason why they live is because of that. But the ones that were very lenient on it, they actually died pretty quickly. Like that's one of the things I did notice. So, um, even though it was harsh back then, they were like they serve as an example. It's like, okay, this is when people strayed away from God, even though they were in the wilderness with Him, it led
Yeah.
up to their death. And the more that respond quickly and effectively, it was always based on faith. Their faith is what kept them alive, and still kept them alive up until they were only allowed to live over X amount of years until they drew their last breath. So there's so many scenarios like the bronze serpent, there's these diseases, these sickness. Some people like did certain things. Like God always never faltered from His end, and so when people did, He's like, okay, time to test my people to see how strong their faith is, because obviously faith can only be tested if you give like some scenarios where they're like, okay, if they are faithful and they trust me, regardless of what it is, then they would react this manner. And the opposite is either they do have faith or they don't have confidence in God. It's either one or the other. So, um, even though we're not living in those times, like 4,000 plus years later, the contingent point stays the same. It's either you have faith in God or you don't. And yeah, that's always always one of the things the God is trying to see how far people's progression is when it comes to their trusting in Christ and whatever scenario that they come confronted about.
Yeah.
All right. Um. Yeah. So normally I have people like muted here, so if you guys came in uh afterwards, we're just doing like Q&As. So if you have questions, uh you can ask now. I'll bring you up.
Uh,
And
Spirit has a question.
all right,
He
so
put
we'll
it in the chat.
we'll bring up Spirit next. And in case you don't want to forget your questions, I suggest you write it down. Because obviously, like if we're gonna talk a whole lot of topics, maybe you'll forget. So write down these questions just so it doesn't slip your mind, and then we can revisit something earlier that we talked about today. All right. All right. I'm gonna move Spirit up. Let's see here. Oh, once okay.
Man, I'm hungry.
All right, Spirit. You can unmute yourself, and then you can ask your question. I don't know if he's here or not. Yo, Spirit. There he is.
Oh,
You can hear me, bro?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yo,
Yo, I can hear you.
wait, you asked me a question?
Yeah, you said you asked something earlier. I didn't catch it.
Oh, it's in the chat. I said I've been struggling with getting closer to God. And maybe it's something like Mercy said, it's idols in my life. And, I begin to, I begin to deny myself. But then it's like times like this, I just cave in, I guess. And it's
Is,
just,
is
how do
there
I
like
get that?
is there like a particular thing like so what are you doing now and what something like you wish you want to do to be like okay, I am getting closer to God? 'Cause like I know it's like different stages, so I want to see like where you're at right now.
What I'm doing now is finding comfort in the world. What I want to do is just, I mean, it's a lot of things. I want to do everything with God, bro. Like I just want to grow in the spirit. I want to grow with God. Cause today, like the Lord, bro, He blessed me with a new job, bro. And with this new job, it's like I'm gonna be able to save more money. I'm gonna be able to provide, help my mom pay the bills more simultaneously while saving money. Cause now I'm not living check to check, and it's just like God does these things for me, and I want to do better, but at the same time I feel it in my heart that I want to stay where I'm at because I'm comfortable. But I know it's not good. It's not good to be comfortable in this world, bro.
Hmm. And then what do you want improvement on? Like what do you want to see in the next couple of days or weeks to see where your mind's at?
Content, like content in suffering, bro. You go to Philippians 4:11
Hmm.
through 12. It's Paul. Paul said he learned how to be content. And then I was also looking at a sermon in the book of Acts. Paul was stoned and he was laying down on the ground, and then like believers, brothers and sisters came and they prayed for him, and he got back up. And I believe that he died because the pastor who was preaching that sermon, he said he believed that he died, and I also believe that he died because it kind of makes sense. And it's just that faith that they had in like the book of Acts, even though they seen God, it's like I want to see God in the spirit. I want to just live with God in the spirit.
Okay. So I've noticed a couple of things that you said. I think I think it's sort of similar to Mary, Mercy's position, where I I don't think we recognize what we already have. So Galatians 5 talks about there's two ways that we can walk, either through the spirit or through the flesh. Now,
Yeah,
we don't have to be like scholars to understand what that means. It's very actual simplistic. So, um, in order to do something, especially when the Bible tells us this or that, that means we have the capability of doing so. So if I'm capable of walking in the spirit, what am I missing that I'm somehow under the impression that I'm not walking in the spirit rather than walking in the flesh? So when you read what consists of those things, we notice that yes, this is what I'm doing, but I'm not doing the other. But most of them are just traits, if anything. Let's see if I can go there real quickly because they're not really actions, but they're just um, words to
great.
describe like virtues. See if I can go there real quickly. Okay, here it is. I'll start verse 13. For you, brethren, have been called to liberty. Only do not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh. So instead of like getting right into it, um, it's very important to read the chapter from beginning to end because it gives you the fuller context. And the context is we have been freed from our sins. So don't see your flesh as something like it's holding you back. Because the more you have that, it actually starts to become like a stronghold in your mind. The more you tell yourself and convince yourself and think to yourself that I'm a prisoner because of my sins, God has already freed you from it. He has justified you according to Hebrews 10, but that justification and righteousness of Christ has been placed on you. So there shouldn't be any more self-condemnation. Okay? You So when we reread verse 13, for you, brethren, have been called to liberty, only do not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh. Because that's one of those things, like even though we have the Spirit of God dwelling within us, that doesn't make us perfect. So we can still falter and err. And we can choose to deliberately use this newfound freedom in Christ for wrong things. So here Paul is encouraging us not to do so. But what I want to highlight is the word liberty. We have that. It's not like a thing that we're anticipating on the future because, there's a lot of things that we're waiting on. We're going to receive glorified bodies like Christ. That is a guaranteed, not like wishful thinking that maybe one day. Since I read that it will happen because everything God has said has came to pass. And just like I said in Matthew 24, his word will not come return void. Whatever he says happens. Point blank period. Doesn't matter how long that takes. That's irrelevant. So when we remind ourselves, because this is very important, we read the word not only to understand it, but of course we remind ourselves what has God said. Because I can say something and I can sometimes not follow through with it. That just reminds me I'm just limited and I'm human. Um, but I can't commit as much as I want to. That's expected to. So rather seeing it as something that's holding you back, just see it as like I was like, okay, I can do two things. Either I see the glass half empty, which is, I still have this flesh, I can only go so far, or you can see the glass half full, which in this case you can rely on the promises of God. The reason why I don't beat myself up for it, despite like how sometimes I mess up in certain scenarios, I say things I shouldn't, or what's it called? Uh, do things like, God would have preferred I've done it better. I don't beat myself up for it because I rely what Christ saying what's going to happen. I rely on the eternal life, the rewards I'm going to receive, helping out in any way, shape, or form that I could. I don't have to deal with suffering anymore. I don't have to deal with death. Um, it's not my responsibility to save anyone. It's Jesus. He's the one who came to die for the sins of the world. So he's the one who's capable of doing so. I just, I'll play my part of it. I gotta make sure, like, I'm not uh, uh, people pleasing and self and sacrificing myself to the point where, like, I'm trying to meet the standard where God just like, I just want some time to spend with you, you know. So it's a lot of like self-reflection. Self-reflection on the state. I'm like, okay, this is where my limitations are. God is beyond that. So let me just rely on what he has said and promised. And if I do this, like if it says, if this happens, then do this, I'm going to do it because obviously there's a reason why he prescribes us every single issue that we might be faced with, and there's always an answer to it. We're not left like stranded. We're not left hopeless. We're not left without instruction. There's so many things in the Bible that makes it pretty clear that we have an answer to like everything. So I know it's pretty easy to like compare our progression with other people. Like you think that 1, 2, 3, 5+ years of being with Christ, we should reach a level where like we're so altruistic that it seems like we're perfect, but it's not. It's That's not realistic. Idealistic, it seems good on paper, but realistically, um, if I was able to achieve a certain form of godliness, then I would not need Christ at all. But Christ is there when we mess up. Christ is there when we are alone. Christ is there when we don't do things according to the law, And then when we are lacking love in certain aspects, He is there to make up for it. And He'll show us, I'm like, okay, this is for the next time. You're still my child. I don't hate you. And don't beat yourself up for it. There's so many ways how we can respond, and there's so many passages to respond accordingly to how specific we respond to whatever scenario it might be. But it goes to show you that God is always there to compensate. Because without Christ, there's nothing stopping us from receiving the full wrath of God. Like technically speaking, we still deserve His wrath, but because we have Christ, um, it gives us peace to understand God is just as He is loving. So thankfully, because of Christ, I'm able to walk in this liberty, not be feeling condemned. I can use this liberty to exercise the things that I have to go through with God rather than by myself. So, um, another thing what I also notice in your responses is that you're trying to find comfort in this world. That's not the point that God tried to instill in us. He's trying to see what to anticipate, because obviously that's better. Just put yourself in the Israelites' perspective. They were freed, but they weren't ready. And it's not like they were complaining. They were literally not ready to receive the promised land. So if you see that as like a future, which you should, it makes sense why God put them there for 40 years, because that's how long it took for them to finally receive the promised land. Because they weren't ready. God took them out, and after so many examples, up to the point, it's like, you know what, you're gonna stay here for 40 years. He should have wiped them off the face of the earth. He was completely justified and right to. But because of his love, um, and when Moses intervened, he sees them like, okay, this is the side of humanity that I instilled with him. We didn't love and define love on our own. It came from God. He is love. That's where we get our love from. And so within those 40 years, there's many examples what they did, and I'm like, how do you still doubt and deny God that He can't get you out of this scenario? He got you out of Egypt. You crossed the Red Sea. When you had no physical food or provision, He literally let it rain from the sky. When you were bitten by snakes, He cured you. All you had to see was look at the snake. He always gave like like an alternative and an access point to the way, the truth, and the life that never changed from it. We just finally understood that with the New Testament. And so um, the flesh does what it's essentially designed to do so. Because since it's corrupted with flesh, it will constantly, from time to time again, will do these things to separate yourself from God. But because the Spirit of God is dwelling within us, that the ability to reconnect with God is always there. So if you're disconnected, the simple solution to this is to reconnect your relationship with God. It's just that simple put. And there's so many ways about it. So don't stress yourself about like, okay, I'm not here with God. Like I'm not here with Him. Like I'm not like doing this and this enough. God, God gave you a standard, but you're not supposed to exhaust yourself with that standard. You're doing that standard because you're like, this is how much I know you love me. This is not like, okay, you're not reaching this enough. You're not good enough. That's just misplaced peace. It's not peace at all because you're gonna stress yourself out. Other religions they have that issue. Christianity doesn't have that issue because it fundamentally you understand that God loves you regardless. You can show your love by doing these things to just demonstrate like you did a lot for me and you still are. Um, let me show you how much I love you. And so when you do these things, you give rather than take or prove something. All of a sudden, that stress and the anxiety and all those weights just come off of you because God gave you life to enjoy. Not specifically in the world, but as we're going to redeem this body, as that day and hour comes sooner, I find myself not stressing out about it. Like sometimes when I'm at work, and this has been happening a lot, sometimes other people will complain around me. And so I have like there's multiple things, but realistically they fall into those two categories. Either I partake with them and complain alongside with them, or I hold on to what Christ said. You know what? This is just temporary. I don't have to worry about this in the future. And when the world end of the world comes, let's say like the next, I don't know, 3 years or let's say 50 years from now, I don't have to deal with this anymore. I'm just here biding my time. I'm gonna keep myself busy, but I'm not gonna be too invested in this world because it's gonna fade away. All these buildings, all these trophies, accolades, achievements, possessions, houses, cars, money, whatever it is, really, it's gonna go away. It's gonna get burned up. God said, "I will not drown this world by water, but He's gonna do it with fire." And so everything that you can think of is gonna be burnt up, literally. They won't last, even the precious metals. And so why would I invest something that I'll know at some point it will just all go away? So obviously there are way more important things, and what I can choose to confide in is not those things that will fade away. To actually put like my confidence in money, my Roth IRA, my stocks, this and all that, like with the blink of a finger, a guy can make it disappear. Um, just to fall in line what's going to happen in the next couple of years. Like when that day and hour comes, everything's going to fall apart, and it's going to be worse. And it's incomprehensible and incomparable because if you read the book of Acts, I think it's chapter 17, it says the world will know wrath like it has never done before. It's insane. Like we went through so much generally, like world wars and stuff like that, and the world is going to seek even something worse than that. So it's like almost hard to even imagine. But I don't have to worry about that. Like so many people respond negatively because they're focused on the wrong things. Like with the whole rapture prediction, I'm like, even if you come with a compelling argument, because I know that you're basing it off on like these random coincidences. Uh, Me euthanizing my pets, me selling stuff, or me doing this, and getting ready to rapture. That's that's not how you respond correctly because regardless when is that day and hour, you should be already looking forward to when that happens. Either that happens in the next couple of seconds or in the next couple of years. It's That's something you're already anticipating. Knowing how close it is shouldn't deter from you and like, okay, let me get ready. You're already ready to be received um, outright. This is why it's very important to teach eschatology, not to theory craft or anything. But it goes to show, like, even if you do or do not know these things, you should always rely on God's promises. He promises to give you eternal life, peace that surpasses understanding. Like, imagine feeling the sensation of peace where when you worry, you can't even like put into sentences of the peace you're about to experience, or can at any given moment. Because in order to receive that peace, you remember what God has said in His Word and what He has done. Like the fact that He was able to defy death by dying, and so when He resurrected, so you will experience that resurrection, and so you're going to be this fully formed new creature, which you already are according to Mark 16. Um, and you're about to experience what life should have been since the first day. So obviously, in this very cynical and pessimistic world, they don't have that because trying to explain these things without Christ, obviously that wouldn't work. And so I would say don't focus on your situation too much because all of that will be irrelevant because where God is taking you, the promised land, is the final destination. You're going to have your home in Him. This home that you're in right now is just temporary. Don't focus it too much. Don't think too much of the what, when, if, the hows, and the whys. Uh, I used to be an overthinker, and thank God, God is more like just stop, enjoy, be with your wife, talk to your child, go work. You know, don't kill yourself, don't overwork yourself. Like I just called off work today because I definitely do feel like my neck was being strained enough, and I went to work today. I'll definitely like uh, have like a stiff neck or something. So it's okay to relax. But there's no sense for you to worry because God did it. You can read throughout the whole entire Gospels. Jesus didn't sweat. That didn't say He didn't face persecution. He did, but He endured it. And I recommend you read second. I would say like Second Peter. I'll just read the whole entire two epistles of Peter. There is enjoyment in our sufferings because our sufferings are testimony. I'm like, even though I endure all this stuff, right? Whether it be small or large scale, I'm not gonna start comparing to anybody, but those persecutions and all those trials mean something because despite you going through it, you still became an overcomer. You receive your crown, you receive so many things. I'm like, these are the people, the meek inherit the earth. And so it's there's a very strong contrast to what the world places value and what Christ has placed value. You think that successful in the eyes of God would be like what we are able to achieve um, by using these like achievements as a standard, but it's actually the complete opposite. Where our achievements is what do we do in our sufferings, regardless of where we are on the earth. There's so many people that like don't have the same privileges as our life, and their testimony is so strong that they're being executed for their faith. And God is like, I'm waiting for you to receive this reward and my open arms when you finally cross over. And it seems very bizarre because when you grow up in the world doesn't teach you that. It never did, and it's not going to start anytime sooner because obviously they're holding down on something that they wish will last forever, and they don't because they don't hold on to Christ. Christ was, is, and is going to come. He's always the great I am, and nothing is going to change that. So I'm going to start reaching forward to somebody who never changes and always says who he is and promises things that nobody can take away from it. So um, I think when we should read the scriptures, I'm gonna finish stuff off because I went on a pretty long tangent. I'm not gonna lie, but it's a good useful habit to rely what the Word of God says because it's more than just these words just sound cool. These words actually do mean something. Like I'm very firm in my salvation. I'm very firm on my faith. I'm very firm that regardless of these small inconveniences that life will throw at me, and while I'm messed up, right, God is going to still take me through it, whether I have everything or I don't, whether I'm free or in jail, whatever the case may be. I have my God. I have Christ. Once if I have that, I have nothing to worry about because all this stuff, um, it's not really like going to hold me back because the thing is, and I catch myself doing this, I sometimes feel bad for the enemy because I'm like, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to get into my head, right? I have these thoughts that obviously appeals to the flesh and stuff like that. But you're doing this while in the book of Revelation, your end is plain out written. I won even before I even experienced. You guys are going to be thrown into eternal darkness and suffer forever. Like your end is way worse than you can actually like be afraid to admit, and you're trying to rob me of my happiness. Me allowing you to go through that, you'll succeed momentarily. But when that day comes, you're all cooked, literally, like not even figuratively speaking. So I don't have to worry about anything because like whatever is going to happen in that fateful day, I know that I won't suffer to the same extent as to those. The fallen ones and then the demons are responsible for the hate that's really just feeling this world. I'm just like, okay, you you keep reminding me of the past, but I'm gonna remind you of your future. You're done. I have nothing
Look,
to be afraid about. But yeah, I'll just finish on that. What do you have to say?
you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to say, bro, thank you, cause you opened a new perspective that I should carry. I feel it. Uh, it's cause I do find I try to find stability in this world and the comfort that it brings. But like you said, these things are temporary, and I should find my comfort and stability in the spirit, in the Lord, in the kingdom. And I've been looking at it wrong. But the Holy Spirit opened my eyes through you, bro. So thank you.
Yeah, what I recommend you read is again the Epistles of Peter.
Yeah,
I think Second Peter 1 is like thinking like for some reason I'm thinking of that one, but I'll
I'm
just
gonna read
finish
it.
on I'm just finish on this note. Uh, if you're suffering for Christ, you're doing something right because it
Yeah,
reminds you like what Christ did in order to achieve all this. So imagine what you can achieve through your sufferings.
yeah. I gotta learn, bro. I gotta learn how to suffer.
Yeah.
Can't let these insecurities get to me, bro. When you gonna do another Bible study?
I could see if I could do it tomorrow. That's why I'm doing it today because maybe people are too busy and they're gonna have like a very busy Thanksgiving tomorrow, but I'll see. Um,
Nah, bro. I can always make time for the Lord, bro.
yeah, because I have like people coming over, so it's either
Yeah.
around the same time, so I'll definitely will net know like a couple hours ahead of time. But if not, Sunday for sure.
All right, brother. All right, I'm about to hop off this month. Appreciate it, bro. God
No problem,
bless.
dude. God bless. All right, Ambria, you want something you want to share? You got any questions? Let's see here. Ask to unmute. Let me hear you.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know if you guys can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I don't know why it doesn't look. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, um I don't think I have anything right now. I actually when I joined in, um like I heard you guys talking about like relationships and stuff, and I actually needed to hear that part. So that was kind of crazy. But yeah, um right now I don't think I have anything. So how often are you going to be doing these?
Well, so far I only have 2 days off. I have Thursdays and Sundays off. So, um, yeah, I just called off today, yesterday, because I'm like, yo, my neck is hurting a lot. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna
Okay.
take the opportunity to like host a live and do stuff like that. Because usually when we do a Bible study, like I already have like something in mind. But I'd just rather be like, all right, let me just host these things, get people to join, and so like provide the link. So just in case like whatever it is that they've been thinking a lot or recently, or maybe they just help in whatever area, I could just get right into it. Because um, I've been writing a lot, and even though I hosted like a couple of studies beforehand, I just rather like free form it because it's because like I'll do like a study and then have it fresh in my mind, but then like there whatever studies I did beforehand, like I'll start to like forget about it. So this will be an easier way for me to like remind everything that I've studied up so far. Um,
Mm.
yeah, but what when we're talking about relationships, like, what's that one thing that kind of like stuck out to you?
I mean, like the part where, just discussing like putting it in God's hands and not like I mean, like for me, something that I've struggled with too is putting it in God's hands because I'm gonna be honest, I've been honestly like kind of um I guess the best word would be bitter towards like people around my age, like early 20s or like, early college that are like getting in relationships and then in relationships and I've just been like kind of bitter about it because I'm like, you know, I'm hearing so many things like, well, wait on God's timing and all this stuff. And I just wonder, and some of these people I've seen have been dating for like years. I'm like, why does it seem to be so easy for them? And like surely they're not like I don't know how to explain this, but like
Yeah,
just like especially these people that I'm around consistently that don't seem to be like reading their Bible every day or like having a strong relationship with Christ, and they're like I hear so many people being like, well, focus on God and all this stuff, but then I like I am, and I don't have that. And then like I see people that barely have, relationship with God, that do have a relation, they are in a relationship.
Mhm.
They're posting on Instagram how much like they're grateful for this, and like, they try to act like a Christian on social media, as far as their relationship, and it's just kind of like weird to me. And I guess like the bitterness just comes at like, why, for someone like me who is like trying to strengthen their relationship with God, and like, focus on God while also wanting a relationship, like it seems like it's so difficult for me.
Mhm.
um and I don't want to make it more difficult than it has to be. I'm trying to be patient, but at the same time it's like, you know so many people. I like one of my friends,
Mhm.
literally just last week, my 18-year-old friend comes up to me in chapel with an engagement ring, like she's getting married next year, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like she's literally getting married at like what, 19, I think.
Mhm.
And like I'm going to be 20 next year. I'm like, not saying like I'm okay with like waiting, but at the same time I'm like, what is she doing differently that I'm not, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, I can help you out. So, do you know what's the 10th commandment?
Mm-mm.
It's do not covet. Do you know what covet is?
I've heard of that, but I don't really know a lot about it.
So that this is why it's important. Um, the Bible talked about this very early on, and I'm gonna stay on topic with the relevant points that I've made earlier because it comes into like fuller picture. So, do you remember how Jacob's story?
Who?
Jacob.
In the Bible?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how he got his wife?
Um, was he the one that had like uh he had to like work for 7 years,
Yep.
or was that someone else?
No, that was him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he had to work for 7 years, and he liked like one sister, but he ended up being with the other one.
Yes. And do you remember how that he didn't get his wife first, right? He had to work 7 more years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you were in Jacob's position, how would you feel?
Mm, could you like better explain his position?
Okay, so I heard everything you're saying, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not negating these issues because they are an issue. But I'm noticing like you're comparing yourself to something you wish you had, but it's
Yeah.
always positive, but it's never negative. Because you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
desire something uh that would be a net negative, would you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you see yourself working 7 years or 14 years for somebody who's supposed to be your spouse, like your husband or wife?
Mm, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like you said, would I see myself working like that long for a husband?
Yep.
I feel like at this point, yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'm surprised you said that because usually people would want things what other people have,
Mm-hmm.
but it's never the opposite, you know? Like it was such a bizarre concept. I'm like, why are these people so obsessed with Christ? It was so strange. It was like a foreign concept to me. And at one point I was
Mm-hmm.
like feeling like resentful for towards that. Like whatever they have, I wish I had that into something like, I can't even like understand what that is, you know.
Yeah.
And so, it's a blessing, for somebody to get married, but you're only seeing the externalities of it. You don't know if that person or the other person have good motives. You don't know if like what causes it, what's going to happen. You know, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
so many stories and so many circumstances that like it's not uh picture perfect. So I'm like, okay, I'm seeing the things that I can't see, but God is perceiving things what happens underneath the surface. And so
Yeah.
it's a very humbling thing to see like, okay, they have something that I don't. I want it for for myself, but only because I'm ready for it, not just for
Mhm.
having it. Because do you remember having a kid? And since you have a twin sisters, didn't you have those
Mm.
instances where you're fighting for the same thing over like
Yeah.
whatever it is, and then
Mhm.
sometimes you find yourself like I was just fighting over it because you wanted it,
Yeah.
right? That's the same thing that Jacob underwent through, but it was on the other side. So I love asking this question. I'm like, who was Jacob's wife? Was it Leah and Rachel? And it was a trick question because it was both of them. They were both
Mhm.
his wives. And so,
Yeah.
despite how the situation came up, he was definitely dealt at bad hand. We all dealt with bad hands in different areas in our lives, right? Um,
Mhm.
but that shouldn't deter to us. I'm like, okay, I want what this person has because I lack of it because it doesn't do you any good because in Jacob's account he all his because he had four, right? It was Leah, Rachel, which were sisters, and then he had two more mistresses,
Mhm.
and he had all his 12 children from those four women, and they were fighting each other. So imagine you in Jacob's position that like you have something which he had more than what you and I both have. Like I'm currently married to one wife, and I plan to stay that way, but you're not married and he's dealing with a whole set of issues, and there's no peace there. Because
Yeah.
imagine being in Jacob's position, or being one of his wives that like you can't feel like you don't love me because you're loving these other people who you also have children with, and I feel some
Mhm.
type of way about it. Now you have jealousy as an issue because it does happen.
Yeah.
Even if you try to have like these polyamorous relationships, they don't work out well because God didn't design
Mhm.
that. If you're trying to do something outside of God's design, it's not going to go well. That's a given.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the thing too, because that's one area of like us trying to do things out of God's design. But you and I, whether we don't like to admit it, we're also doing it in another sense. Like for instance, uh, your friend is getting married next year, but she's young. There's a
Mhm.
lot of like advice I can give to her, not to be like, it's almost like you don't want me to get married. I was like, no, you're going to step into something that actually has a lot of responsibility. I want you to
Mhm.
ease into it because if you get married too soon, it's gonna end up pretty difficult, if not bad, if you guys end up being separated. You know,
Yeah.
um, something shouldn't be forced. And if you having it, like your need to have it, and then once you have it, all of a sudden it comes, goes and crumples up. The only one we can point the fingers at for is ourselves. Because I've
Mhm.
been trying to have something that this other person have without even weighing these important factors. Once I have it, I ruin it because I just wanted to have it. So that's what covetousness is desiring something what somebody else's have. But that's the thing, that's theirs, it's not yours. You're going to have what's yours, and what is yours is not theirs.
Mhm.
Um, I suggest you read, I guess, like the first 30 chapters of Genesis, because in Genesis 12 and chapter 21, I just find it weird how, in these specific chapters, Abraham's wife was almost taken by another person. But God
Mhm.
decided no. Sarah is Abraham's wife, and you can read that by verbatim in both of those chapters. And in both of those chapters, right, two different times where somebody would try to take Abraham's wife, God decided that person was going to be Abraham's wife, not Abimelech's in chapter 21. And it's definitely not Pharaoh's wife or one of his maidens, because God is like, no, whoever I join together, stay together, let no man set them apart, including God Himself. So I
Mhm.
think the important part is uh, enjoy the process, because obviously, if I were to ask you, and I can quickly make my next point. Besides this, is there other areas that you can improve with God currently?
That I can improve.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So knowing those things, and we're not gonna list them off, and I'm not gonna ask you what. I think it will be a very fruitful thing to be like, you know what, God, these are things that I feel like I need to work with you. Let's focus on these because I don't need a husband right now. Because obviously,
Mhm.
like, you're going to make that decision for me. So what do we need to work with, God? Let's get into the Word. I'm gonna ask people to pray for me and reveal like what needs to be addressed right now. Because
Mhm.
obviously, I feel some type of way, but you know, you can save me so much heartache by addressing these issues that I keep ignoring and focusing on
Mhm.
something that like it's not really a priority. So it's like
Mhm.
stuff like that. I find my wife doing that to me because it's pretty easy to get a cup on your head, but I'm the head of the household, and
Yeah.
so in order for me to lead my wife, she has to essentially you know uh, address me as such. You know,
Mhm.
I have this responsibility. You have your responsibility. I'm supposed to be the head. You support me. You're my equal. You're my side. You're my rib. You're my Eve. And so, in order for me to do my job, you need to do your job. And you weren't designed this way. I have this responsibility. You have your responsibility.
Mhm.
This is the chain of command. And the more you do your job, the more I can do my job, and vice versa. And so, um, yeah, I mean, the head of you right now is Christ currently. When he
Mhm.
decides to be like, okay, I'm gonna give you a man to lead you into a more godly relationship, that's not an if, it's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously God has everybody in their mind and every single of their needs met. But when we're talking about provisions, we're gonna be like, okay, I would rather die of starvation than not know the word of God too well. Like I'm
Mhm.
so firm in my faith and the word of God that um when you're talking about this problem, I used to have this issue, but the question is, how do I want this issue to last long for? And
Mhm.
so when I ask those questions, they usually go away pretty soon because I'm like, okay, if I'm thinking about this too much, obviously God wants me to fix this now rather than later. So, um, the Word of God has so many examples, like I just cited with Genesis 12 and Genesis 21. You know, whoever has God
Mhm.
has mind for you, nobody's gonna separate them. The more you believe into that, the stronger the marriage is going to be. Right now, I haven't been with my wife for like 3 months, going to four, and our
Mhm.
relationship is going well because we're calling and stuff like that. But the fact that it is, I'm like, God put us together. There's nothing gonna separate us. Even myself, like,
Mhm.
even if I react negatively and it starts to take a toll on me, I remind myself like God is not gonna separate us because He's the one who puts us together in the first place. So
Yeah.
I don't worry about it. I don't stress myself out. I'm grateful that I received it. I'm blessed for it. But speaking with somebody who was single and now married,
Mhm.
I trust the process and what he's doing because he's the one leading. He says, "Follow me." I'm not the
Mhm.
one who is calling the shots. Um, Despite like how much it feels like that way, but besides the point, um, I still have a lot of areas that I need fixing. I'm grateful that before I met my wife, God helped me with certain aspects I was lacking. Because if I got married sooner, even though like it only took like a year of celibacy, um, up until like here's your wife, you know,
Mhm.
how bad that relationship would could have been now if I didn't resolve a lot of issues that God wanted me to fix first. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll finish this with this analogy. If you're cooking something and it takes like an hour to be ready, you taking an hour like 30 minutes into cooking is like what you're trying to do by jumping into in a relationship, getting married as soon as possible, and having
Mhm.
something with other people is because it's not ready. It's not yet. It's not a race, it's a marathon. So hopefully like that helps you uh
Yeah.
ground yourself and like pace yourself at God's um timing of whatever it could be.
Yeah. I like that analogy. Actually, I think I'm gonna like keep that in mind. Like it's if I tried to, because I know like even with this like desire, like wanting to be married and in a relationship and stuff, it's like I also know, like, on the other hand, underneath that desire, like deep down, I know that I'm not ready. Like, it's sad because I'm knowing these things like deep down, like I'm not ready. If this was the season for that, God would have me in that, and I know these things, and then, like, and then eventually I just start like, I guess it's probably just, yeah, I start seeing like couples on Instagram, I all around my campus. There's couples everywhere, and I'm like, I just like, I don't know, and then it just gets like, I'm just like, okay, all right, like, when is it my turn and all this stuff, and then all those feelings come back, and then I forget about, like, my core values, like those
Yep.
things, like, God will have me in that season when I'm ready and things like that. So, but I like the idea of the baking thing because, like, it's it's like, that's something so like, something I can really understand deep down because I do like cooking, and so I know, like, how frustrating it can be to wait on, like, a good dish, but when it's done cooking and it's cooked good, it tastes good and it's more enjoyable. And so I like that analogy a lot. So yeah, that really helped.
Yeah, and also the opposite can be true. Like if you let it cook for too long, it get burnt.
Yeah.
And this usually falls on line. Actually, one of the people, I don't know if you were here when I was talking about, one of the people that I tried to let go before literally met my wife, the last person who had to, like, you know what, God, if she's for me and if she's not, you decide. Um, she's very what's it called? High maintenance. You know,
Hmm.
like there's like like a set standard, and if you didn't follow that standard, like, uh, we couldn't be together. And so, I was basically like fighting this uphill battle that wasn't really, I want to say achievable, but like sustaining, because obviously somebody who is high maintenance, um, you can't really please that person, because they're,
Yeah.
as human beings, our high standards. Once you meet them, it'll just be higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher.
Hmm.
But God is the standard. Nothing is higher than that. And so,
Yeah.
the opposite is true. It's so interesting because there's so many examples and so many people that'll just be like, okay, there's an answer for that. There's an answer for this. I can go to scripture. I guess,
Hmm.
like, I would recommend you read Ecclesiastes 3. I think the first 8 verses.
Hmm.
I would suggest you meditate it on deeply because there's a time and a place for everything. You know,
Yeah.
there's a time for you to grieve, a time for a war, a time for singing, dancing, stuff like that. Um, there's so many things that God wants us to enjoy, but we should do it at a correct pace, have good intentions, good motives, making sure like we're not doing it incorrectly and uh, doing it um, too soon or too later. When
Hmm.
we'll be like, God, I don't know when this problem that I'm having, the when if, here you go. Actually, we'll read it, Hebrews 5. Hebrews 5
Okay.
is something I wanted to read today, and it's just as relevant. Because right now I'm just going off because I'm very familiar, but I think if we should just read the word, obviously, like, it gives like that anxiety of like, okay, it's up to me. Because like it's never us, our responsibility to have these cares. Okay,
Yeah.
let's start at Hebrews 5, verse 7. You
Okay.
ran well, who hindered you from obeying the truth. This persuasion does not come from him who calls you. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. I have confidence in you, in the Lord, that you will have no other mind. But he who troubles you shall bear his judgment, whoever he is. And I, brethren, if I still preach circumcision, why do I still suffer persecution? Oh wait, hold up. I'm in Galatians 5. Hold up.
Yeah, I was like reading it. I was like, wait, that sounds
Yeah.
familiar, but this isn't the.
For some reason, I thought I was in the other tab. Okay. I was like, wait, hold on. Why is this talking like Paul? Okay, now here I am. Okay, I guess I'll start at verse 5, chapter 5. So also Christ did not glorify himself to become high priest, but it was he who said to him, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." As he also says in another place, "You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek." Who, in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with vehement cries and tears to him, was able to save him from death, and was heard because of his godly fear. Though he has a son, was a son, sorry, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. And having been perfected, he became the author of eternal salvation to all who obey him, called by God as high priest according to the order of Melchizedek, of whom we have much to say and hard to explain, since you have become dull of hearing. Okay, so with that being said, Christ is our high priest. High priest function in the Old Testament that this is the person who intercedes for you and between God. But Christ is God still at the end of the day. So the person who speaks to the Father on our behalf, who petitions and makes our troubles, our needs, our provisions known, is still God at the end of the day. So God doesn't feel like it's a burden. Tell me what is it that's troubling you? Because obviously he just doesn't want to hear for the sake of it. He
Mhm.
does relate to you at such a personal, intrinsic level that no other person, including yourself, can truly understand what you're going through. Unlike in comparison, like him,
Yeah.
there's no context with that. So who is it better for us to speak to God than God Himself? And so I think it's a really good light reminder to be like, okay, I want God to save me from this worry and this anxiety that I place upon myself. God saved me from it. And you can see how quickly He will just do it within a second. And I have many
Mhm.
multiple experiences that I'll never forget. Uh, where before I met Christ and afterwards I met Christ, when I genuinely wanted a salvation from a particular circumstance, God always delivered. And
Mhm.
so use that benefit that a lot of people don't have or even use um, when they finally come to Christ, because you know it's a very simple solution, but the ironic part of it is people don't want to use it because um, they don't see themselves as God providing the solution that doesn't look palatable. You know, let's say,
Mhm.
right, you're not supposed to be married. You're supposed to accept that regardless
Mhm.
because it's not about what you want, it's about what Jesus wants. Jesus,
Yeah.
what he went through, if you were to ask anybody person, would you go through this route like he did? One, you're not fit to do so. And two, 100 times, 100%, nobody would say yes. And so
Mhm.
obviously what God wanted, he basically did it, and that benefit what we're able to receive is an endless list of blessings and provisions and so many things that we can achieve not through our own means but he did. So it goes to show like what humans desire always falls short, but what God desires always comes to pass, and it's um, beneficial. So
Mhm.
this is where like dying to self and stuff comes into play. So again, it's like it's not a question. I'm like, who cares what I want? I want what Christ wants, and so that's like a good daily reminder of anything.
Yeah.
I think the other day I was thinking of James 5. Hold on. I think it's like around verse 19. Let's see if I can read it. Yeah, I think this is the one that I was talking about, Mercy. Mercy, if you're still hearing, when I was referring to when I confused to Hebrews 6 about the water, about the soil, um, and the rain, and it mentions like Elijah, it's in James 5. Yeah. Meeting specific needs. I guess I'll just read this since I'm mentioning. James 5 verse 13. Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing psalms. Is anyone among you sick? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith will save the sick, and the Lord will raise him up. And if he has committed sins, he will be forgiven. Confess your trespasses to one another, and pray for one another, that you may be healed. The effective fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, and he prayed earnestly that it would not rain. And it did not rain on the land for 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth produced its fruit. Brethren, if anyone among you wanders from the truth, and someone turns him back, let him know that he who turns a sinner from the error of his way will save a soul from death and cover a multitude of sins. So, I guess like my last point would be, if you're somehow deviating away from what Christ has said and promised, I guess my responsibility as your brother in the faith is to essentially take you, turn you, be like, here you go. This is the person that you go to with all your needs. There's no other person, you know. I don't have all the answers, but I can point you to someone who does. And um, that's something that like we should always remind ourselves, because obviously, we can give credit to each other, like thank you and stuff like that. But I'm not special at all. You know, um, Christ has been very, very generous, and I don't think he's gonna plan anytime soon to stop that. So clearly, he is more adept and equipped of handling everybody's needs. Because I can't cite how many instances where I asked him and he delivered, and sometimes when I be like, why am I asking Christ about these issues, as if like he can't um, fix the situation. So even I end up forgetting me or so. So it's pretty nice to encourage one another and like, let's remind about the person who came and to free us from these things, including sin. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right? I don't think there's pretty much anything to say. I mean, let's see. I think the last couple of studies that I did, we can get into it on Sunday, but um, I think I might stream something else because I was waiting on a person. I don't know if he's gonna come, but we're about to react to some content and do some commentary above it. But it's already 9 now.
Okay. I'm gonna try to join the 52. I know y'all are probably like way into it, but the 52 weeks in the word thing on Saturday. So yeah, I'll try to join that. I'm actually, the passages that you brought up today, I'm gonna go and read a few of those. I think the main one that I feel like is the I highlighted it. Um um Ecclesiastes 3. I'm gonna go and study that a little bit more because I feel like that would really, like, I really just need to be reminded of that for sure. So thank you for um thank you for this and like everything that you said too.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you this specific section of the book,
Okay.
the Sabbath, because like one of the things will cite, I think Matthew 18, where it says,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you are weary and heavy laden, come to me and I give you rest." Those are
Yeah.
one of the passages that remind yourself. But let me see if I can find it. I don't know. Should be around here. I don't know why it's taking me a while to find it. But what the when, where did I put that? Wow, I have so many subsections. It's actually getting lost. It's insane. I guess it's. Oh, here it is. I flew past it. It cites that one, but obviously we have so many things that bother us. Sabbath is a very good topic to like remind ourselves that
Yeah.
we'll finally have that moment of rest. I'm gonna DM it to you
Okay.
um before we depart, but that should help you ground yourself in something that's more sustainable.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me know if it sent all the way through, because when I sent Mercy that link, apparently it didn't. So I had
Yeah,
to
I
like,
see it.
okay, cool.
Hmm.
All right, we can end it here then. Do you want to pray us out?
Sure.